Shabbat Shalom. As I'm now speaking, we're coming up on Pesach, one of the most effortful holidays of the Jewish year because it involves so much preparation. Those who take Pesach seriously will take seriously the commandment to remove all leavening from one's person and one's property. And of course, that's a big, huge project. Basically, it's spring cleaning, except perhaps a little bit more thorough than that, because we're really concerned about these food products that are supposed to be eliminated from our possession in one way or another. And what is this commandment of removing leavening really all about? We know that the word for leavening in Hebrew is chametz, and that if we reverse the letters a little bit and we turn the chet of chametz into a hey, what do we end up with? Matzah, unleavened bread. That gives us a very significant teaching, something which it's worthwhile contemplating at least for a few minutes, and that is that perhaps the difference between leavening and unleavening is not all that great. And what are we talking about here? Not just the physical substance of leaven, but the spiritual implications of leavening. Because leavening is really all about the process of fermentation. The process in which bread rises is actually a rotting process, if you will. A lot of gas is produced, a lot of puffery is produced. And in the spiritual symbolism of Chametz, we're talking about ego. We're talking about our individual being being puffed up out of proportion to what it really should be. What is the ego really? Well, we absolutely need to have an ego in order to function in this world, so actually ego is a very important thing. But the problem with having an ego is that it is subject to chametz. It is chametzdik in so many instances. It becomes too big for its own good, and it begins to see life in terms of itself. Rather than serving others, the ego wants to be served by others. That's a natural tendency. It's a natural tendency that needs to be opposed by spiritual instruction and effort to reverse nature in that way, to become something which is even higher than nature, which is to say, a giver to life, a servant of others, rather than a taker from life and a taker or receiver from others. So the ego needs to be disciplined in order for life to be lived on the highest level. And so this yearly ritual of removing chametz from our person and from our property is really a process of humbling of the ego. And so yes, we go through a lot of physical activity, cleaning this and putting away that and selling our chametz to me or to somebody else in order that we not possess it. But the symbolism of it is probably even more important than the physical action. The question is, can you have the symbolism without the physical action? And the Jewish answer would be, not really. Because if you root something symbolic in something concrete, then it becomes all the more concrete and all the more powerful in your life. This is something that we Jews have experienced generation after generation after generation. It's not something that we should part with lightly as a ritual practice. And so for this Pesach, I want to wish you much humbling of the ego. As unpleasant as that may sound, it's actually one of the greatest blessings in life is to have one's ego humbled. May you become a servant of God and a servant of others that you love. May you become a giver to life rather than a taker from life. And may your Pesach preparations go so well that you will realize the deeper meaning of the word Pesach. Of course, Pesach means to skip over, and it refers to the skipping over of the angel of death as the 10th plague was being enacted in ancient Egypt to our ancestors 33 centuries ago. But really, Pesach, when you analyze the syllables which make up the word, it's Pesach. Pesach. It's a mouth that can speak, a mouth that can articulate liberation, a mouth that can articulate humbling of the ego, a mouth that can articulate being a giver to life rather than a taker from life. And so this is the blessing that I wish for you this coming Pesach. And next week, hopefully, I'll be back with more Pesach teachings. In the meantime, Shabbat Shalom, and I wish you a Chag Sameach v'Kasher in advance.